Hi everyone, this is Catherine. Last week we covered numbers as part of the real-time and dictionary building class. To build off of that, I came up with two Eclipse features that are specific to the program, as well as just something extra for you to consider that has to do with numbers. First, we're going to talk about inserting the time and date directly from your computer into Eclipse. This can be really useful for a variety of reasons, which I'll get into in a little bit. Next, we're going to talk about not just number triggers, but delayed number triggers, which I believe is new to version 7. If you're not using version 7, then this might not work for you, but don't get too frustrated if it's not working for you. That might be the reason why. Lastly, I'm going to be talking about some things that I learned from some really talented real-time reporters that utilize the number bar in new ways that could really revolutionize and help your writing. Let's get right into it. First, how to insert date and time. Let's take a look at my dictionary and I'll show you the syntax that this has to do with. I ran a quick search for capital TM colon because this is really the important part of what this boils down to. Squiggly bracket, TM colon, and then a variety of these funky looking codes. Now what these essentially translate to, according to Eclipse, are things such as the complete date, maybe the complete time with the minutes and seconds, or this I think also means PM or AM, because there are a variety of ways that you might want the format to be for your date and time. Do you want to have the full word of the day of the week, followed by the full month, followed by the day, followed by the year, and then the time might also include milliseconds or military time? There's a lot of different ways you can do format. So I'm not even going to break this down exactly what this means, and I'll show you where you can look inside of Eclipse to find the format and the code that works best for you. Anywhere inside of Eclipse on your keyboard, you press F1 and it brings up essentially the total Eclipse help. If you haven't checked this already, I really recommend it. It's pretty much, oh my gosh, the entirety of the manual inside your software for convenience. Here, under the search tab, type in insert date time. The second option is where you're going to find the good information. Insert date time. Scroll down to the bottom. There we go. The codes. This has a breakdown of what all these little codes mean, whether it's the abbreviated weekday or the full name or days of the week without zeros, etc., etc. There are a lot to look at, but what I'm going to ask you to do is just focus on the combined codes, because here is where I find what you're probably going to be using for the most part. What's so convenient is that Eclipse lists the code, followed by a short description of what it means, and then best of all, an example of what it's going to look like. So you don't have to do too much guesswork to think, oh, well, if I put this in, what am I going to end up with? It shows you right here. If you recall what I had previously, I think this is what I had, the complete date long version. So again, F1 for the total Eclipse help is where you can go to find all the codes that you can eventually use when you're doing real time. Mostly this is where it's going to play, and for a variety of different useful little features. I'm going to go into my real-time file and I'll show you an example of where I made a dictionary entry and how I use it. Let's say that you're in a deposition and they decide to go on a break. Well, it might be beneficial for you to note the time that it took place. And because it's a lot easier to do this, rather than having to look down here at what time it is, oh, okay, it's 6:29, and then writing it before you forget, I simply did my double stroke of break, break. Here it is really quickly, and it converts. There you go. I made a parenthetical for off the record at and input a certain little code, which we talked about earlier, to draw the time directly from my computer. Let's say a little bit of time passes. You might want to mark down when they come back. Back. This is the code. They came back at 9:29. So that's just two examples where you might want to consider making a special parenthetical, for example, that brings up the time. Another example I had is time. It's massive, but it essentially brings up the entirety of the day of the week, the month, the day, the year, and the time. This is something that you might just want to start at the beginning of a deposition or whatever session is and hit your input, whatever it is, time, have it all show up, and so that you know when you start to go on the record. Next, I want to talk about delayed number triggers. Now, you're probably already familiar with some normal number triggers. The most familiar would be, and the code is, what is it? I believe it's a capital T. Okay, I'm sorry. It's going to look like that. Okay. There. You might be familiar with these little guys. Do you remember having to learn in theory that when you're going through the numbers and the time chapter, rather than worrying too much about making sure you press a 3 and then a colon and then a 1 and a 5 for 315, just write the numbers 315 and then maybe double tap time. And this was the code. This is a number trigger that tells Eclipse that wherever the number is, whatever numbers are kind of touching this, let's say in the instance of 315 time, to convert those numbers into the time format. The same thing is also familiar, I'm sure you're familiar with, the date, which is simply a capital D. Well, the difference between a normal number trigger and a delayed number trigger, oh, here it is right here. Not only does it have this little greater than sign, although you can look at it as an arrow, but what it means is that, let's say if it's part of this definition of what time was your meeting, and the answer is 3:15, without having to write anything else, this is telling Eclipse, okay, you wrote this, which means when a number comes up after this, which is most likely going to be a time, convert that time into time format. Let's take a look at that in action. Question. Okay, what time was your meeting? And the answers, 3:15. Okay. And it will, oh, didn't it do? Oh my gosh, I had a typo. So silly. Sorry. What time is your meeting? 3:15. Where did you go? Scroll down. There you go. Okay. Obviously not what team, but what time is your meeting. And then it automatically converted it without my having to do anything extra. So this is an example where you might want to consider using the delayed time trigger in a phrase such as what time. Now I wouldn't recommend you have it with the word time by itself, meaning every single time you write the word time on your steno keyboard and you had this in it, that might be a little bit risky because it could say something like, how many times did you go to the office that week? And he says, 36, and they might want to convert that to time or who knows what. So you might want to be a little bit selective where you choose to have your delayed time trigger. Another very convenient place to use delayed number triggers is in the case of a delayed date trigger. Notice how it is, again, this familiar syntax of squiggly bracket, hashtag, capital D, like a regular time date trigger, but now we have this little arrow. I have mine defined with date of birth, because in an instance where he asked, okay, what is your date of birth? 11/5/64. Okay. Then it automatically takes that string of numbers and converts it into a date. The date of birth that had the trigger, you can see, the delayed number trigger told Eclipse, okay, you wrote this, which means that pretty soon within the next sentence or paragraph, if I see some numbers, then I'm going to convert them into the date format. So we talked about delayed date triggers and the delayed time triggers, which are really great, but I'm going to be honest with you and tell you some shortcomings. In the instance of the delayed time trigger, it works pretty well if the format of whatever string of numbers is given is hour and minute, 10:11, 3:15, 6:21. It doesn't work out, I've noticed, if it's simply by itself. What time was your meeting? It was at 9. I don't know why. So far, again, this is a pretty new feature. I'm sure they're still working on it, but you will find that it won't convert standalone numbers. It was 3, it was 5, it was 9. Also, 3 o'clock, I think if you write a clock, that sort of overrides anything having to do with the delayed number trigger, and it'll just follow that format of 3 o'clock. So there's no worries there. In the case of the date of birth, it works really well if a person answers in a string of numbers as straightforward as month, day, year. It won't work, however, if, let's say he answered, okay, what is your date of birth? The answer is November 5, 1964. It just doesn't convert it appropriately. Test this out yourself and you can see. But that's just not cause for concern, but just cause for acknowledging that, like all softwares and and everything out there, there are some limitations to keep in mind. So we talked about inserting the time and date and also delayed number triggers, which are specific to Eclipse. This last part is something what I call very affectionately raising the number bar, because ever since the beginning of theory, when they told us we had an option to use the number bar or not, well, common sense told me the number bar is there for a reason. Why would I clutter up more of my keys when I could simply be using the number bar? It's there. Let's give it a chance. Unfortunately, I feel like a lot of instructors, they don't really encourage it. So this is my chance to tell you, no matter where you are in your learning, if you're very early on in theory or early speed building or later on, it's never too late to try and incorporate the number bar in a new variety of ways. So what I wanted to do, I'm going to bring up the the simulator. Here we go. Just so we can take a look at the writer. Now, typically, one of the reasons why people were discouraged from using the number bar is because we were told that, I just converted so you can see, that so long as the numbers were in ascending order, such as 14 or 124, that you never had to worry about going back, and you could do single strokes for these, which is wonderful, right? But let's say instead of 24, they said 42. Oh, shoot, that's a double stroker. 4, 2. Well, I'm here to tell you that, if you kind of look at the way that the number bar has converted the top row into numbers, there's still quite a few untouched letters down here, as well as some of the vowels that are open for your use. So why not basically combine the number bar with any of these lower bank or vowel keys to come up with phrases, or to flip numbers, or to double numbers that will save you from going from 2 strokes down to 1 stroke. In terms of phrases, I'm going to jump right into some of my favorites, which is 1 or 2. Now, what I mean by that is when people are saying, okay, how long in the hospital for? 1 or 2 days. It rolls off the tongue very quickly. 2 or 3 days. 5 or 6 weeks. 7 or 8 days, whatever. Rarely will they ever say something like 1 or 3 weeks, or 6 or 9 hours. They're usually quick ascending order. And so what I've chosen to do is, in combination of pressing 1 and 2 at the same time, add the R, and define that in your dictionary as 1 space or space 2. I went through all the way up to 9. People don't usually say 12 or 13 times, so whatever. That's just an example of how you can consider combining the number bar with a lower big key. Another option that you could consider doing it is for some 1-stroker for the 2000 years. 2001, or 2003, or 2008. These are all 1-strokers for me, and I love them. So the last way, if you're just totally not interested in using the number bar, even in conjunction with the lower bank keys or vowels, at least one way that I'd recommend that you give it a chance is to consider using the number bar for some macros. This is just a preview. We're going to be learning a lot about macros next week, but I brought it up because macros are sometimes specific to, let's say, the quantity of words or a feature that you want to pull off. A very common one, for example, this is one that I do, 1*Z, and that tells Eclipse, and I've defined in my macros as to capitalize the 1 word prior, capitalize 2 words prior, capitalize 3 words prior. Sure, you could come up with a combination of regular letter keys to do the same thing, but when you're doing something that is, let's say, capitalize the last 4 words, capitalize the last 2 words, a lot of them have to do with numbers, and so you could consider at least combining, if you're not using the number bar at all, at least use it, again in conjunction with some other keys, to trigger a macros. So I'm just going to give a little disclaimer. Everything that I've learned about using the number bar, whether it's for phrases or macros or anything else, are from very credible real-time reporters. In particular, Ed Varallo, who has an amazing book that I tried to read cover to cover and has everything. I learned it from him, and I thought, if he does this, then maybe it's not so crazy. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about different ways that you can utilize the number bar, along with the lower bank keys or vowels, etc., don't hesitate to shoot me a message in YouTube, or if you know me in class, find me or shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to talk about raising the number bar. So thank you so much, and I hope that you learned a thing or two about different features in Eclipse that utilize numbers. Whether it's inserting the time or date directly from your computer, as we discussed, using delayed number triggers in specific situations, or just using the number bar in general. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful week.